Good morning, everyone. I am Vice Chair Byron Amos of the Committee on Council. I'd like to officially call this meeting to order. The time is now Monday, November 18th, a little bit after 11. Introduction of my members. Been joined by Councilmember Dozier, Councilmember Weston, Councilmember Shook, Councilmember Boone, and then Councilmember Faroki as well. Make a motion to adopt the agenda. Motion been made and second. Please open the vote.
One moment.
While we're open to vote, I see that the screen is not on. Are we broadcasting live? I mean, channel 26. Are we on? We are on. Okay.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is adopted. Make a motion to approve the minutes. Motion is made in second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Minutes are adopted. Make a motion to adopt full council agenda.
Second.
Motion is made second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Agenda is adopted. Moves us to our public comment. I remind us all, please stay respectful. Have 3 minutes. Have several people signed up to speak. So, Mr. John Stout, you're first.
I came up here last time and I had like a bunch of stuff and it gets like wordy when you have a statement. So I guess I'm just gonna like continue the comment from last time, which involved Liliana Bakhtiari in the Oakland Cemetery incident, and I guess. I'm still looking for an answer, and I've reached out to multiple sources, including like her office, and they said in that statement, when she released the statement on Instagram, she spoke about valuing accountability and transparency, and I reached out to her office because I'm still looking for an answer about if Mr. Montfort, the guard who was fired from the private security company, which I understand, Georgia's right to work and all that. But there was a line in the news article about how he had been barred from working City of Atlanta property as well. And I was just trying to determine the accuracy of that statement, and I haven't gotten a response to that. And that seemed like a simple yes or no. And so I was just trying to understand if he was or was not. I mean, I think there's some irregularity in how that whole incident was handled from her actions or whatever, In the body cam footage, she's, their whole line and defense is how scared they were and they didn't know who he was and that they thought he might have had a gun or a bat and was charging them. And not one person in that group called 911. And the responding officer who took their statements was sent out there by not an Atlanta person, like elected official, appointed official, police officer. It just seems highly irregular. And I think like the people deserve some answers to that. And, I'll leave it at that. I see some other people in here that are, I think the main thing I will say, though, was like just looking at, there's like a level of hypocrisy here. They're taking police statements at the tail end of Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. You look at like, they're throwing like every trope at the guy in the book, basically. I'm personally disgusted by that behavior. And I would like some accountability from her. I would like to see a statement from her that acknowledges some of that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list would be Amy Stout.
My name is Amy Stout, and I am the chair of Neighborhood Planning Unit N. Once again, I'm taking time off from my paid employment to come to City Hall to speak on the topic of the Office of Inspector General because I feel very strongly about the efforts by the Dickens administration to undermine and discredit this important entity. I'm not just speaking for myself. NPUN voted unanimously to authorize me to communicate with council to express our strong support for the Office of the Inspector General, our absolute opposition to recent efforts by the Dickens administration to defang our public watchdog. I urge you to vote against Resolution 24R4518 on your agenda today. By no means should this committee give a green light to this administration to continue this railroading, nor sign off on a blank check to support the ongoing antics related to this task force. Thanking the task force and accepting their report is one thing, but authorizing the mayor's office to write the legislation is quite another. I hope you won't be like the U.S. Senate, who looks set to abdicate their responsibility of advise and consent. The council should take the lead and draft their own legislation, and it should address the concerns of not only the task force, but the OIG, the concerns that have been raised by the OIG since last May, and it should address the concerns that are being raised by the public. More specifically, I will remind you of a position paper that was adopted unanimously by the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board earlier this fall. Among the common sense recommendations in that paper were a call for independent legal counsel for the OIG, emphasis on the need for providing immediate access to public records without a requirement for an open records request, a requirement for all city departments to respond to OIG recommendations and implement corrective actions, along with strengthened whistleblower protections. The public wants to see changes that ensure independence, transparency, and effectiveness. For the OIG, the public wants city government with integrity. Kowtowing to the mayor's beat down on the OIG is not what we want. If you go their way, the future of Atlanta will be more fraud, waste, abuse, and corruption. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list would be Brother Muhammad.
I am Brother Anthony Muhammad, and I want to echo the young lady's recommendation to this council, because we should have transparency, fairness, equality, and justice for humanity. But I come here today, members of this committee, Mr. Amos, co-chairman, we had made a proclamation presented by the council member, Ms. Brown, Ms. Collier Overstreet, Ms. Barcataria, and Ms. Mary Norwood. I've been coming down here about 12 years, going on 12 years. I was down here when Miss Adrian was here. Some of y'all should know Miss Adrian, Mr. Shook. She used to say to this committee and other committees, why don't we have a quarterly report, Mr. Winston, Mr. Dozier? We have these people put on these committees and don't never come back and give us no update of what recommendation they could give us to make some action for what they think would benefit the people. You walk down 20th Street, all the way to Forsyth Street, back to the City Hall, women and children sleeping on the street. Men's got tents on the street. They look like you, Mr. Co-Chairman, and myself. But this been going on ever since Ms. Shirley Franklin initiated this commission in 1993. No activity. But you could come out, Ms. Boone, and give proclamation. Made me think about Ms. Kamala Harris. When we asked, what would you do for dark anti-matter people? Nothing. That's Barack Hussein Obama. What would you do for dark anti-matter people? Well, I can't just do nothing either. And here we go in the 21st century, the city of Atlanta. Martin Luther King got his brain blown out to stand up for the civil rights of humanity. You have had many people, Malcolm X, Sojourner Truth, I could just roll them off the top, but to have this commission And you have people like Brother Muhammad come to this podium, and members you have put on the commission, don't never come and talk about what they recommend, what they think. But you, the elite, you who have been chosen, Mr. Winston, Mr. Joseph, to come and sit in these chairs after the fight of justice, freedom, and equality by the people that are named, and you, they call the millennial, don't do nothing. Then you want us to give you an increase in your pay? $49,000 for what? I pay taxes on my home. Been asking y'all to do some striping. Many of you sat on the commission, like Mr. Angel, you ain't had the decency to want to call and say nothing. But you want me to say, yeah, give him an increase in his pay. I'm going to say what your ancestors say. It's a cosmos, as above, as below. You are a human being. You have a soul, you have a spirit, and your cosmos have a mental capacity to stick with the natural order. It's laws in nature. And we have to turn back to nature because your days are limited to be in position of influence. I didn't greet you when I came here. I said, "Assalamu alaikum, Metro Hotel." I say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list will be Mr. Devon Franklin.
Good morning, council persons. My name is Devon Franklin. I am Senior Movement Policy Counsel with the Southern Center for Human Rights. And this morning I am here before a committee on council, which I never come to speak to you all about the urgency of placing the legislation funding PAD upon a vote for full council today. As I understand it, Rule 13.3 of the Rules of Council authorizes the sponsor of any legislation for the PAD legislation, that would be you, Mr. Faroki, to call to the floor any paper that has been held by the assigned committee for 2 regular council sessions. The legislation authorizing the grant of the reward to PAD has been with the Finance Exec Committee for more than 2 council meetings at this point in time. And I would like for you all to take the action to call that to a floor vote today. As I have learned, I know that there may be some desire or some intention for continued gap funding for another short-term approval of funds towards PAD. And I'm here to tell you all this morning that that will not be an acceptable course of action. PAD participated in an open, competitive bidding process. They won that process. I understand that they may have been the only organization that was present for the bidding in that award. But I also understand that if an unqualified applicant were the only applicant, that they would not have been deemed sufficient to be granted the reward. And so, being that a lawful process was engaged in, and that PAD was vetted and approved for that legislation, I think now is the time for a vote to be had. I understand that the reason for the stall has a great deal to do with tensions with the administration of the mayor's office, that there are preferences that are being expressed from his end that are in fact affecting the ability or the willingness of full council to actually approach that legislation. And what I would say to that is that there are mechanisms in place for that. We all went to public school, some of us went to private school, and we all are aware of the basics of civics, and that where there is a legislative branch and there's an executive branch, that the legislative branch does its job. And if the mayor doesn't want to approve it, he certainly has the right to veto legislation, correct? It is not the job of this body or any other body to do the job of the mayor. You should not carry his cross nor carry his water. If he does not want to engage in business with PAD, let him put his signature on it. But today, as we stand here, debating the merits of the only organization to have provided mobile referral and diversion services to this city, I'm asking that you all put the vote up to the council members and not let it sit silently.
Thanks, sir. That brings us to the end of our public comments. We want to recognize we have been joined by Council President, President Shipman, That takes us to communications. If there's no objections from the committee, we'll take item number 1 and 2 together.
Item number 1, 24C5127, a communication from council members Liliana Bakhtiari of District 5, Alex Swan, District 6, Howard Shook, District 7, Mary Norwood, District 8, and Matt Westmoreland, Post 2 at large, appointing Mr. Kevin Bacon to serve as a member of the Board of Zoning Adjustment. This appointment is for a term of 2 years. And item number 2, 24C5138, a communication from Leona Barr Davenport, President and CEO of Atlanta Business League, submitting the appointment of Ms. Judy Walker to serve on the Atlanta Citizen Review Board. This appointment is for a term of 3 years.
Make a motion to approve item number 1 and 2.
Second.
Motion is made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Both items are favorable. Takes us to communications resolutions. Item number 3, please sound the caption.
Item number 3, 24R4449, a resolution from council member Jason H. Winston, as amended by Finance Executive Committee, appointing Mr. Gary V. Bridgman to serve as a chair of the City of Atlanta Defined Benefit Pension Plan Investment Board for a term of 5 years to begin on date of confirmation and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Second. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Takes us to our resolutions. Item number 4.
Item number 4, 24R4517, a resolution by Committee on Council to correct the action taken by the Atlanta City Council regarding Resolution 24R4435 to revoke the previous action of accepting and filing said resolution and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is closed.
Item is favorable. Takes us to item number 5, in which I understand we may have a substitute. No.
Mr. Chair, there is for item number 5, we will be, there is a recommendation to file this item, and there is a walk-in to replace it.
Got you. So motion to file item number 5.
Well, item number 5 is 24R4518, a resolution by Committee on Council to express the appreciation to the City of Atlanta for the work of the City of Atlanta Temporary Task Force charged with reviewing the process and procedures of the Office of Inspector General, the Ethics Office, and the Governing Board of the Office of Inspector General and the Ethics Office for its diligent work to provide recommendations in accordance with its charge, to accept the report and final recommendations of the task force, to approve the recommendations, to declare that it is the desire of the City of Atlanta to ensure the recommendations of the task force are properly implemented in the best interest of the City of Atlanta, to request that the city attorney or her designee shall prepare any draft legislation and/or governing board standard operating procedures which shall be necessary for the implementation of the recommendation of the task force and for other purposes.
Now motion to file.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. Please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Item
Vote is
will be
closed.
item will be filed. It takes us to J, papers held in committee, in which there are none. Takes us to the walk-in legislation, in which we have a piece. Please sound the caption.
Elms ID 36909, a communication to express the appreciation of the City of Atlanta for the work of the City of Atlanta Temporary Task Force charged with reviewing the process and procedures of the Office of the Inspector General, the Ethics Office, and the Governing Board of the Office of Inspector General and the Ethics Office for its diligent work to provide recommendations in accordance with its charge, to accept the report and final recommendations of the City of the Task Force, to declare that it is the desire of the City of Atlanta to ensure the recommendations of the Task Force are properly implemented in the best interest of the City of Atlanta and for other purposes.
Thank you. We have been asked by IG to make a statement. So if you would like to at this time, or. And as you approach, I see one of my colleagues have a question, so we'll go there first.
More of a comment, perhaps a question. The Law Department has opined that, as articulated, this communication improperly includes resolve clauses, which are not part of communications. So maybe I'll defer to, if I can, to the law department just to speak on how this is drafted before we address the substance of it.
Yes.
Good morning, Amber A. Robinson, City of Atlanta Department of Law. That's exactly correct. This is a communication, so therefore it should be in the form essentially of a memo or letter directed from the sender to the Atlanta City Council transmitting certain information, in this case, the task force report. It is not a resolution, and so therefore the resolve clauses as set forth in this draft would not be proper. This will not be passed as a resolution, as a communication. There will be no action taken by the council beyond accepting and filed if that is the council's choice. So therefore, this will need to be amended to remove the resolve clauses and essentially be drafted in a manner such as to the Atlanta City Council from, I believe, the temporary task force transmitting the report. And I do apologize. I mean, I just as a walk-on and just seeing it as I sat down, but that would need to happen for the proper formatting.
That answer the question.
Can I?
Yes.
Piggyback? All right, would that apply to the caption as well?
So I
Should the
think
caption simply read,
the caption should
we acknowledge receipt of the report?
correct.
And that's it?
Right, because the council cannot express appreciation through a communication, as is not a resolution. It can't take action, so that's correct as well. The caption would also need to be corrected.
So we're at a standstill.
Yeah, I mean, unless someone's going to draft a proper communication, I feel uncomfortable voting on it unless, I don't know how quickly that can be done in this meeting, or if we need to hold it for a cycle. You know, I defer to law on that, but also you're sitting as chair. I respect your direction as well.
I mean, I'm perfectly able to start, though I can't speak to how fast. Yeah.
Councilman Amos and Patrice Perkins Hooker, their city attorney, we will make those adjustments prior to the submission of the same at the council meeting. Since the subject matter will be the same, except for it will not be in a resolution format, just like it was announced in the walk-in. There shouldn't be a problem with approving the communication and just expecting to have a substitute of that communication to make certain it's in the correct format. But we'll get it done before the 1 o'clock vote.
Okay. I mean, I think it's for the members of this body to decide if we're comfortable moving forward with that framework. But what you're saying is, if we are to vote on something like this with, consideration or reservation that you will provide a proper document before the 1 o'clock meeting?
Well, yes, you all have done that before in various other situations where you know that there will be a substitute coming. The only thing, the essence of the document is the same. What we're doing is removing the resolve clauses because they require action, and we will have this be regarding, and it will be the same thing regarding the work of the task force and the recommendations, transmitting them to you all. And there will be no actions required in a communications as in the resolution.
Okay. We'll always have that debate as a committee. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we could do this, I know the IG is here. Let her go ahead and make her statement, and then we can be thinking about which way we want to move forward. But as she comes back up to the mic, I see another colleague, Councilmember Dozier.
Sorry I want to hear from IG as well, but I am curious about the time sensitivity of this, and if there's an opportunity to get this right and hold the cycle, that I would be supportive of that action. But that's my only comment with that. Just making sure the legislation that's before us is in the correct format, especially if,
Comment sounded like a motion, was that?
I'll make that motion. I still would love to hear from IG, but I would like to make that motion.
So that motion is to hold the cycle. Is there a second? Motion has been made and second. In discussion period, Madam IG, your comments, please.
Good morning. So if this is to be converted into a communication in the way that Ms. Robinson described, then that communication would involve only the acceptance of the report that was issued by the task force. The representations made just now by the city attorney said that all of the substance would remain the same from the document that's before you, but only the resolved clauses would be removed. Those things aren't the same. Part of the reason that I wanted to come before the body was to note our concerns with some of those clauses in terms of the substance, the whereas clauses that would approve the final recommendations of the task force, not just accept, but approve, and also making sure that they are properly implemented in the best interest of the city of Atlanta. If that language remains, then the request remains from our office that this item be held. The reason for that, very, very briefly, are some of the concerns that the office has regarding the recommendations and commentary described in the task force report. They're too numerous to address here with this body at this juncture, but given the significant concerns that we have, both about how those conclusions were arrived and the substance of those conclusions and the impact that they would have on the independence and effectiveness, not just of the Office of Inspector General, which is an independent entity, but also its board, which is an independent entity designed that way in order to safeguard the independence doubly for the office. So the notion of the approval of the recommendations, of having the city attorney craft legislation and policies and procedures pursuant to the findings from the body, all of these things are serious issues. Hopefully at this point you've all received, not just from my point of view, but also the observations from the National Association of Inspectors General, flagging some of the significant concerns raised by the task force report. The short of it is, many of these recommendations would, if implemented, render this office an Office of Inspector General in name only. And so to the extent that this resolution and any other resolution would be introduced that flows from that task force, we ask that any of those items be held until this body has an opportunity to independently assess the operations of the office. That this body can then have the opportunity to engage in a more full and fair examination of our operations, most notably including the participation of live engagement with subject matter experts.
Thank you for your statement. So committee, there is a motion on the floor that has been properly made and second. If there's any more discussion amongst the committee, I think we go to a vote. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
The paper will be held. I think that brings us to the end of our legislative agenda. We stand adjourned.